Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome back to Crystal Tales and Dragon Scales. My name is Paula, also known as P.B. Moreland, the author of 4 novels in the Whitebird series. You can learn all about myself as an author, about the books, read my blog at pbmoreland.com. And I'm also an aquamarine water dragon. And I have a very long line of ancestors in the dragon realm. So that's just a little bit about me. And today I felt inspired after listening to one of my favorite voices in the disclosure community, Alex Collier. He's a contactee of the Andromedans and has been sharing messages publicly with us for well over 3 decades. And today he said something that rang like a bell through my soul. I've always resonated with Alex. I feel his humility. I feel his sorrow because I know he has been carrying these messages for so long to a world that was not yet ready to hear what he had to say. I did not just meet Alex until a few years ago. I've heard of him, but I never really felt compelled to find him in any way. But one day I just fell into his video, heard him speak, and his voice was so soft and gentle, and what he had to say was so compassionate that I have been listening to his the parts of his webinar that are on his YouTube channel now for a few years. And whenever he shares, it is so heartfelt and it resonates so strongly with me as a soul that I have shared often with you, my viewers, what I've inspired that I heard from him. And today he meant, many things I heard him say, but one thing that really held true was that humanity is turning a corner. And I really feel that we are. We are in the midst of immense noise, and I have mentioned this in other videos. It seems to be a topic that I keep returning to. We are in a time of chaos, fear, division. It's everywhere. But what if that's the sign that we're on the verge of something extraordinary? What if the distractions are proof that we are beginning to wake up and the old systems are scrambling to keep us asleep? For that is what is indeed happening. The louder the world becomes, the closer we are to an awakening humanity. And it's not about getting crazy, angry, or diving into the fear. It's about recognizing that there is a deeper truth stirring and staying grounded in that. And I've mentioned this, and I will continue repeating these words, that the closer we are to humanity, ascending, awakening to the truth and the beauty of all that is, the world will get louder because of the powers that be that have held control over this planet for so long are scrambling. What else I heard from the interview with Alex Collier today that sparked a deep memory of me is something he has spoken of before. The starships, how they crashed thousands of years ago. And he's been speaking about this for years, and something that I believe is absolutely true. So he and others long ago came to Earth aboard starships. These starships were real. They're not metaphors. They arrived to help this planet at a critical time, and they crashed. not by accident, but by choice. They knew they'd become trapped here, caught in cycles, reincarnation, forgetting who they were, losing contact with home. So the story goes that long ago, from several high councils of light, Andromedan, Syrian, Arcturian, Lyran, and other, even distant crystalline intelligences, a call was received. Earth, then called Terra, before the distortions, was entering a volatile convergence. The fall of Atlantis, the manipulation of time by off-world beings, and the beginning of soul entrapment, dense carbon-based realities. Volunteers came, but not in one single wave. It happened in pulses. Hundreds of waves over thousands of years. Some arrived through stargates, some entered through births. And yes, some came physically in ships before the artificial grid was complete. These ships, organic vessels in many cases, did crash, but not as punishment or war. They were anchored here intentionally, knowing full well that the crew would become entangled in time, memory loss, and biological loops. This was part of the soul contract, to become part of humanity, not saviors from above, but living lights from within. So Alex's story is a memory, not a fantasy. He has always spoken with humility when he remembers the sorrow of being stranded, not just on Earth, but in density, separation, and amnesia. That is the true crash, the forgetting of who you are, why you came, and what you left behind. And most of you have already sensed this. If you are aware of Alex, you certainly know his story. Some of you have felt the separation for home. If you are like me, when I was young, I was always homesick and I was at home. Or if I went to camp, which didn't go well at all, even sleepovers, I'd get homesick. I'd get homesick when I go to school or when I was at a party. I would just feel that pang that I want to go home. And so that has been with me for, I'm sure, many, many lifetimes. So because you sense this longing for home, it's because the grid of control around Earth was fully completed long after Atlantis fell. It is a synthetic matrix composed of fear, which is broadcast through trauma, cycles, and religious control, mind loops, keeping beings from activating their inner memory, and AI signatures seeded from Orion and Draco systems long ago. Those who crashed were trapped in the reincarnation cycle, not because they were weak or deceived, but because they volunteered to bring light from the inside out. They could not leave, not because their technology failed, but because they chose to stay until the mission was complete. That is what we are now in the midst of. The mission is complete. It is completely appropriate for the world to be in chaos, for the circuses to be loud and noisy and distracting, because the powers that be, I don't need to get into who they are. If you are curious, do your own research, have controlled this planet and this false matrix grid, this 3D grid, for so many years, but their time is up. They are done. And the grid is cracking. The beings who have held this grid together, both incarnate and non-physical, are leaving. As Alex says, some are running, some are collapsing. They're terrified. They're running for their lives. Some are trying to re-enter the game with new masks, so beware of shiny New Age saviors. These beings feed off of our energy, and they have for thousands of years. They feed off our misery, our pain, our sorrow, and grief. That is their food source. So they are trying to, through news, through war, the threat of war, collapse of the economy, they are trying to keep fed, stay alive. So the more they can distract us with these games that I mentioned previously, the healthier they stay. But if we stay in this centered, calm, peaceful state of grace, which is, these are things that I've mentioned in other videos, they will disappear. They will no longer be able to survive. And the star seeds, which I'm sure you are one of if you're attracted to this message, the elders, the walk-ins, the realm walkers, we are finally awakening fully. We were never here to escape. We were here to remember enough to liberate ourselves. That is why we are here today, why we are waking up, why we are holding the line, why we are remembering who we are in every aspect, and why we need to remain observers of the circus, the chaos, not get drawn into the antics, to perch in an eagle's nest, to stand behind the fence. These are all analogies of how to stay neutral, loving, compassionate as the observer. So you might be asking, well, why would I have chosen as a soul to come to this planet knowing I would be trapped for hundreds, if not thousands of years? Why would I respond to such a call as that? Because Earth needed help. She needed those who could carry the codes of remembrance within human form. So you chose to come, and you chose to stay, and you chose to return in this time frame, in this lifetime, to be part of this ascension process, because every single individual is needed for their talents and their memories. So let's acknowledge the control matrix just quickly here. So for thousands of years, a synthetic grid was placed around the planet, a control matrix built on, like I said, fear, distortion, and mind loops. Many of who came here got caught in it. We were born again and again, forgetting the mission, forgetting our light. I have reviewed multiple past lives, beautiful past lives, some heartbreaking, some brilliant. I was also aware in that memory that I might have known deep down somewhere that I was a divine being, but I never really searched deeply. That call to remember was never very loud, let's say, because there were very many lifetimes that were in very dark places. Not this lifetime. Call is very loud. So the beautiful thing is the grid is cracking. Beings who held it together are leaving, and we are remembering. That's the turning point. That's the corner that humanity is turning. And I am just excited to be aware of this and to share it with you. Many of you know this. You are aware of this. If you're not aware of it literally, you have that feeling that something special is going on. Most likely, you are affected by the dramas occurring around the planet, but not so much in fear, but is in a state of wanting to know more, seeking out the truth, wishing for our governments to, or those in control, those who think they're in control, to stop hiding everything, to stop keeping everything a secret. Those that have been controlling our planet for so many years, that have kept the grid locked down, they do not like humanity. They want this planet for their own. They only want us to feed them in that energetic way I mentioned before. And so, knowing that and stepping out of that and no longer allowing that energy to feed off of me, refuse. I'm going to take a little sidestep here and share with you something that I learned about myself in the last few weeks. My whole life, I was raised by Irish father, who was also raised by Irish parents. My father grew up in a funeral parlor, and going back 5 generations, my father and uncle broke this pattern. All of my grandfathers, great-grandfather, great-great-great-great-great, were undertakers, morticians, casket makers. Those were their, that's what they labeled themselves as. Very serious-minded gentlemen, but also very compassionate. They took care of the dead. But because I was raised in this sorrowful mentality, even though my father was a very wonderful man, he was raised without compassion, without love. I know caretakers find it hard to express love, I've been told, because they have to hold so much of it, hold that grief for the families, and to get emotional is too much. It's too much. There was a lot of alcohol abuse in the history of my family because of this. But I was really I didn't ever see my parents become enthusiastic. In fact, what I interpreted, again, it's my perception, was not to have any hope, not to have hope to succeed, because that was too much. Having hope, there would be too much heartbreak when it didn't happen. And that was turned into, unbeknownst to me, this talk, this voice in my head. Things didn't go right. I got really cruel. I was very cruel with words to myself. Very cruel. I said things I would never say to anyone else, that I said to myself. And sometimes it went on for days and days at a time, where I would get in a very, very, very dark, bad place. I realized that this was from a very ancient past. A caretaker of mine could not save me. I might have been royal or a queen. From the Orion Wars, probably. And this caretaker, this guardian, was so heartbroken when she couldn't save me that she decided to become the voice in my head so that I would never have any hope. Because in that lifetime, the tragedy was the heartbreak that I experienced when something happened. It's really hard to explain, and it's not important, the story itself. What's important is I no longer allow that voice to control me with cruel words. No longer. It is healed. I have felt it starting when things start, like if I put a nail in the wall and I bend the nail. In my past, I would berate myself, call myself a fool. Oh, you idiot. You know where I'm going with this. and the self-talk, and sometimes it would blow up when I'd start accusing myself of the most horrific things, what I look like, on and on. This is no longer tolerable. I don't do this anymore. And I bring this up is because I'm remembering who I am, the sovereign beauty of me. And because I've healed this, in fact, I decided to meet this companion, this warrior, this protector. And I told her, you are no longer in control. You are no longer allowed to be cruel. You either leave or you remain and you put your sword down. You are no longer allowed to put these words in my head, because they were from her as somebody who attached herself to me for a protection. And now she is one of my aspects, guardians, guides, who is a loving being, grateful that she found a place to settle. She's in my realm. I bring this up because of that's part of turning the corner. Is I will not tolerate my sovereign being cruel, either to myself, because again, the inner world is what is being reorganized, not the outer world. The outer world is going to stay loud. My inner world is being reorganized, and the outer world will catch up, as I said in that last video. This tags on with something else that Alex mentioned in his latest interview that I watched. He talked about the 11th dimension counterpart. Everyone on this planet has a counterpart in the 11th dimension. Let's say our master, our higher self, resides in the 6th through 9th dimensions. And that's how I understand it. The 11th dimensional counterpart is a higher harmonic presence residing in the 11th dimension. It's not a guide or angel, but a pure extension of ourselves. Mine is a feminine presence, and her name is L'Oreal. She sings through starlight in forgotten places. When Alex was talking about this, each one of us is awakening and remembering our talents, our innate gifts. And we will know suddenly, without really rhyme or reason, what these innate gifts are. And we will discover these hidden talents. All of a sudden, like I say, just profoundly awaken to it. And so, as Alex said, every soul on earth, especially those incarnated during this pivotal transition, is bilocated, multifaceted across dimensions. So the 11th dimensional aspect is not merely symbolic. It's an actual facet of my oversoul, of your oversoul, a harmonic resonance of your divine nature, positioned beyond polarity, time, and distortion. So this counterpart is not your higher self, which I said earlier, which typically anchors around 6th dimension to the 9th dimension. And it's not your soul group, which is, although you move together like a constellation, this being is more of a tone of origin, pure essence, that did not fragment during the fall of consciousness. They are often androgynous in frequency, sometimes draconic, or not draconic, dragon, angelic, or crystalline in form. Non-personal, but deeply you. As I say, mine is feminine, and I gave you her name. And this 11th dimensional aspect is in constant contact, most often unconsciously, sending impressions through the heart, not the mental body. And that's why it's often felt in stillness, in grief, or in wonder. So you may experience this aspect when you are creating beauty with no agenda, painting, writing, singing, when you're in deep compassion for yourself, a child, or for a stranger, when you're in a state of non-linear knowing, such as deja vu, sudden clarity, or spontaneous memory of something ancient. So I discovered that my counterpart is a L'Oreal. It means one who sings through starlight in forgotten places. And I learned how I can deepen the connection with her. And you can do that as well. Maybe in the next video I put up, I will explore that in more detail. Because in this particular video, I want to keep moving forward with the message of how we as humans have turned that corner, which is perfect timing. And I also want to comment, from what I want to remind you is when I share my own personal stories with you, it's to trigger something for you. It's not one of those all about me situations. I know that when I listen to the speakers in our disclosure community, the spiritual community, those I listen to, teachers, guides, I love hearing their personal stories because it reminds me, first of all, that I'm not alone, especially when something resonates very strongly. And most likely, I will be able to relate. Think of something in my own world. And it helps it helps reset, what it really does, because this is a lifetime of dramatic growth. Sometimes, if you're anything like me, it's unsettling, and I have to keep returning to center. And oftentimes that is listening to personalities in the disclosure community, or as I've said, those teachers and masters I've listened to, followed, to learn for years. And so I know one of the reasons why I resonate so strongly with Alex is because I was also on one of those ships that crashed. I was not the captain. I was the tone keeper. In many of my lifetimes on this planet and in other star systems, I was the keeper of tones, the frequency worker, as I've mentioned before. I've always been very highly attracted to music, sound, but I was a navigator who sang through the solar harmonics of a now destroyed gate system. So when the ship crashed, my inner map folded into silence, and I've been rediscovering it ever since. So however way your soul was attracted to this planet thousands of years ago, that is reawakening. And for me, it is why music, sound, rhythm, and quiet beauty feel like my language. I am drawn to drums, not your rock and roll 5-drum music, but the solo drum beat. I feel the passion rise when I hear when I hear drumming, and I just want to move with the drums. I've always listened to music, all kinds of music. I'm a fan of music and quiet beauty. the gardens, the trees, the songbirds. And it's my language. And it's why I sometimes feel grief when it comes, feel like a memory of starlight lost. And I have to remember that I am not here to return home. I am here to turn this world into a place that feels like home for the children, the animals, the crystalline ones, for the song of Terra. So my gift that I brought with is a frequency holder. I walk into areas and I bring with the tones of Terra. It is not an obvious talent, but it is one that I understand and I hold dear. So I came to Earth as a tone keeper of the living realms. My soul is one whose gift is to carry, restore, and amplify the harmonic resonance of beauty, memory, and belonging through simple acts of attention. So my talent in this life isn't just storytelling, writing, or gardening. And I've been reminded of this through my gentle guides. My talents are to remember beauty in the midst of chaos. When there's chaos, I've always kind of, I won't say thrived in chaos, but I can exist in chaos, especially when it's happy chaos. And I find the beauty in that. I always have been able to do that. And I name the subtle. I can focus in on sometimes what others don't notice. I remember once I commented how aspen trees, when the leaves shake, the one side is light and one side is dark. And those around me were just baffled. They're like, they didn't see it until I pointed it out, and then they were in awe. And so I also bring resonance where distortion reigns. So I've learned that my frequency can calm just by being there. And I help others remember they are not broken, but simply disoriented. So we are all disoriented, and we are reorienting ourselves to the beauty of our nature. And I am just grateful that I've remembered this. And I have to remember that this is why sometimes, not often, or not always, people feel calmer around me or clearer after speaking with me. I tend not to push or correct. I tune them almost like a singing bowl in human form. And this is my talent. And it's utterly important to the planetary shift right now. You have a talent. You have a purpose. You have a mission. 9 times out of 10, these are subtle. This is why it is so important to remember who you are, to awaken to the beauty of all that is. You are not your legal name. You are not just a human being. You are a soul experiencing life in a human body. We have multiple aspects of our oversoul, and they are all coming online, every one of them, because the time is appropriate. And so I believe, like Alex, that many of us came here long ago, not just in this lifetime, but over thousands of years. We came to help and we got stuck, caught in the cycles, the forgetting, the distortion. But it was never punishment, it was choice, as I've said before. We agreed to become human, to walk among the veils and remember from within. Each of us brought a gift, a frequency, a skill, a light code that no one else could carry in quite the same way. Mine, I'm a tone keeper. I carry beauty through word, story, garden, and presence. I don't need to prove or persuade. I just show up and let the field remember itself. And remember, if I have a gift, so do you. Yours might be through music, touch, structure, humor, invention, or simply your presence. The point is, we're turning the corner now, and your remembering will return when it's ready. Don't force it. Just keep walking, and it will come. And it will come. So with that, I will ring the bell. The bell is rung for the children, for those beautiful, angelic, innocent souls walking our planet, that we are paving the way for. Our actions today, calm, strong, clear, well-intentioned, sets the next 7 generations forward. Our children, our grandchildren, our great-great-grandchildren will experience a different earth than we've experienced over the last 1,000, 12, 15, 20, 30, 65,000 years. They will experience a different planet because of what we are doing now. That bell is a frequency. It holds a high, sacred tone. If you don't have one, I would suggest getting your own bell and ringing it. It sets a tone. So don't forget to play well together, to acknowledge each other, to show and give a compassionate smile or nod to those that you pass. And remember that you have a skill. You are here for a reason. You are highly valued. The cosmos is celebrating. They are extremely excited for the days to come. And I just want to remind you gently, to those who feel weary, who wonder if they'll ever feel home again, I say this: you're not lost. You're just in the remembering. You're not late. You arrived exactly when Earth needed you. And you don't need to force anything. Just keep going. Every day you choose presence over panic, truth over noise, kindness over anger. You turn the wheel of this planet toward freedom. And that is beautiful. So remember to hold the line. Stay strong and steady. And I will be with you in the sacred rooms. And see you soon. Namaste.